Okay, hello. Let's see, let me get this started for our friends on Instagram. Okay, so hello, welcome to this edition of the Love, Happiness, and Success live stream. Today we're talking about how to deal with disappointment, which was the subject of this past Monday's podcast, which I made, last week, anticipating that no matter what anybody's politics were, desired outcomes, about 50% of my audience is not going to be feeling good this week. And so I just wanted to put something in front of you ahead of time in order to help you cope with the reality of one candidate in our presidential election winning and the other not winning. And so certainly that is a disappointment that is on the minds of many. And today the intention could be to talk about that disappointment, but also, coping with disappointment, dealing with it is something that we all have to deal with and learn how to do all the time. I mean, this experience of disappointment is not localized to a political situation. We go through all kinds of things, right? Relationships don't work out the way we want them to. We miss opportunities. Sometimes we have career setbacks. I mean, the kinds of disappointments we can and do face are just endless. And so that is why, as people on the path of growth, as you and I are, this is just something that we need to learn how to do, because it happens, and it happens over and over again. And so one of the main takeaways from this past week's podcast is that there are typically 3 different things to do as you move through disappointment, with a goal of having it be, not just like coping with it, but really, as always, turning it into a growth opportunity that ultimately betters your life. If you are a regular listener, that's the message over and over again. We are grown not in spite of setbacks, but because of them, if we know what to do. And everything that happens in our lives is the doorway to increased growth and health and wellness and strength and resilience, if you know how to do that. So I won't go into all the details here, but certainly would invite you to check out this past week's podcast if you would like to get into the nitty gritty of it. But what I would love to do today is really just talk to you. I would love to hear how you are, if any of you are experiencing feelings of disappointment this week. And if so, if there are things that I can do to support you. If you have questions or would like some perspective or direction, it could be about the election. It could be about other disappointments that you're facing. I would love to hear about it. So let me know what those are. You are welcome to chat me right here in the comments. Oops, what am I doing? I messed up my stuff. Oh gosh, sorry. I can be so clumsy with some of these things. Okay, so would love to know what your questions are for me, what's going on with you personally, so that I can provide you with feedback. You can leave them in the comments right here. And I will just share, last week, I had the most terrible thing happened. I learned after the fact of my live stream that one of you was trying to get in touch with me through direct messages on Instagram while I was talking. And I typically do not have direct messages open. I only see comments that you leave. I'm going to try to keep an eye on direct messages, but if you want to give me any kind of questions or comments or anything like that privately, I do have a resource that I've set up for you. Let me send you the link. You can go to this URL on my website, and here we go. I'll share it to you, and ask a question anonymously. And so I'll get it right here in real time, but I obviously won't mention your name because I know we talk about personal things on this live stream, and I want to protect your privacy. Okay, so let's just start a little discussion group here. Who here's been coping with feelings of disappointment this past week? Anyone? I know a lot of people who are. Who has been feeling disappointed recently? Would like to share it? Yeah, a couple of comments. Thank you so much. It's totally true. There are lots of disappointments in life. Thank you for sharing that. Sirius Isaiah shares, I'm completely distraught. There was so much change that you wanted to see in the country. So really sitting with like election disappointment and, probably like a lot of people now thinking, okay, so what does this mean? And what did this just do to my dream? Right? Yeah. Who else has been feeling some disappointment recently? Yep, the first day you were shocked. Yesterday you said shed some tears. Have other people commenting that they're just very disappointed, nervous, scared. Yeah. And just a lot of people saying, yeah, me too. Right? Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing this with the group. And thank you also for being here today, just because I think that's one of the first steps and things that we all need to do is just give voice to our feelings and have those feelings be honored, recognized, and respected. Oh, another comment. Maybe disappointment related to a relationship. My marriage isn't going well. I wanted to speak about moving out for a few weeks and found a place, but got too scared to go through with it, feeling like a coward. Yeah, that can be a different kind of disappointment, can't it? That's disappointment not so much related to what's going on in the world outside of us, but disappointment related to maybe running into some roadblocks internally. Like there are things that we know that we want to do, but have trouble actualizing them. And so the disappointment there I felt this personally many times before, like disappointed in ourselves in some ways, right? So thank you for sharing. That's just super real. Yeah. Okay. So does anybody have questions for me or things that they would like some perspective on when it comes to dealing with some of these disappointments in an effective way? I don't want to assume to know what is going on with you or what would be helpful for you. So I will wait to hear from you what we should be talking about during our time together today. And again, if you'd like to send me a question anonymously, you can do so with that link that I shared, growingself.com/dear-Lisa. It'll get you to a little chat bot and you can send me a message right here confidentially. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great question. Let's talk about how to cope with disappointment in another person. Okay, yeah, let's do this. So here's the question. I'm just going to pull it up here so everyone can see it. And if you would like to share any more information about this question, to the degree that you feel comfortable with, I would love to know a little bit more about what's going on. But the general question, this is a super common one, is how to cope with feelings of disappointment in another. And I'm guessing related to your partner, when you know that you can't change it, when you can't change them. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a fantastic question and so incredibly important and really, really common. So first of all, I just want to validate that. But there are a couple of things to think about here. So first of all, one of the things that's really important to know is that, and this is not my opinion, this is according to research in marriage and family therapy, is that Dr. John Gottman, one of the most well-respected researchers in my field, marriage and family therapy, has conducted a ton of solid research and has come away with the conclusion that about 70% of all of the problems in relationships between partners are what he terms as unsolvable problems. I know, meaning that these are things that bug us, annoy us, rub us the wrong way, that we wish were different about our partners, and that are not going to change. And so you're sharing a little bit more information. So the original questioner is also saying, here, let me see if I can pull up these comments so everybody else can see them here. Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think so many people here can relate that you find you run into a lot of obstacles with your partner's willingness to work on things, and that his words don't match his actions. And that is such a big disappointment. And it sounds like to me, potentially, you might be experiencing what Dr. Gottman would term as unsolvable problems in your relationship. And that is challenging because, well, okay, there's a couple of different things here. I am a firm believer in people's ability to grow and change and improve. I mean, I wouldn't be in this profession if I didn't truly believe that, right? But the other piece of this is that there are also things in every relationship, sometimes a lot of things in every relationship, that are unsolvable problems. And so part of the work here is figuring out, first of all, is this a solvable or unsolvable problem? Meaning, is this something that could potentially be improved, or is it in the unsolvable category? Because here's the thing. If this is a unsolvable problem, you are going to waste so much time and energy and angst and feel upset, right? That the things that you really want to have be different are still not being different, and like, why not? And why isn't he working on this? Not realizing that this is actually not something that is going to change. Because here's actually like the liberating truth inside of something that might not actually sound that awesome, but here's the deal, is that all relationships have these kinds of things. And so the goal is not to change the relationship, right? The goal here in service of, how to deal with disappointment is actually say, okay, so what does this mean? And is there enough here for me, even if this thing, or, these several things, like, let's be honest, never changes? So we lean into disappointment, we feel the grief, right? But then go into this growth and learning opportunity to assess the situation. Can this be different? If not, what is left over? Because what the very strong, healthy couples do, it's not the absence of unsolvable problems. It is that they are choosing to look at the things in their relationship that are working really well, the strengths that each other have and that they admire and appreciate about each other, and then choosing very deliberately to build on those and appreciate those and have a good time and have a nice relationship anyway. So it is being able to think, is this an unsolvable problem? And also, is it a deal breaker? Because you may also be, if this is true and the way it is actually always going to be, what would I need to do in order to have a good relationship with this person? Is this a growth opportunity for me? Is this a growth opportunity that would help me focus on the strengths of my relationship in a different way? Or is this actually something that means that I can't do this anymore? And that's okay too. So I hope that perspective is helpful. But there is one other thing here, and sorry, I want to answer some other questions because there are so many good ones. But another important thing here is this: one of the things that I teach about how to cope with disappointment is that when we're having really big feelings and like grieving things and feeling really bad about things, all of our dark emotions are such a powerful window into our values, our hopes, our dreams, the things that are most important to us. And relationship issues are the same. So if you are experiencing a lot of disappointment, your emotional guidance system is saying, this is really important to you. At the very beginning, like, is this solvable problem or not. If it isn't, I talked to you about that path, but like the other thing that's oftentimes possible, particularly in relationship dynamics, is that people do what they know how to do to solve a problem. And when it doesn't work, they come to the conclusion that it is an unsolvable problem, not realizing that they may not have been, they may have been trying things that are not actually helpful in solving the problem. Like, so for example, relationship problems, many people spend a lot of time and energy fighting about things, making requests of their partner to like change behaviors without going into some deeper work, honestly, sometimes with therapy or a really good relationship coach that helps get to the core of the problem. Because frequently, if you don't understand what that's really about on both sides, I mean, many times, I would say most of the time, people who are engaged in behaviors legitimately have very little insight into why they actually do the things that they do. And so until we can crack into that, it can be very difficult to change things, but it doesn't mean that they are not changeable. It just means that it requires a growth process in order to facilitate that change that you may or may not have had the opportunity to do yet. So anyway, I hope that perspective helps you. And certainly I want to make space for other people's questions. But if you have other follow-up questions related to this, I would love to hear that. But otherwise, okay, so let's talk about another question that is a really, really good one. Oh, I'm just seeing a comment from somebody that, fantastic. You're reading Dr. Gottman's book, The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work, which is a really good one. And I'm glad that you're reading that. It's an awesome resource. I just wanted to show it to everybody here. Okay, this is another awesome question. I had a major career setback that ruined my reputation for a bit. Oh my gosh, what a hard situation. I'm sorry that you're going through that. And so the question here is, obviously, like, you have a lot of guilt and disappointment in yourself. Where should you start your recovery? And again, this is a tough one. So I would encourage you to listen to Monday's podcast if you haven't already. So this episode of Love, Happiness, and Success, I do a deep dive into coping with disappointment. But the step number 1 that would probably apply to your situation, I mean, I can just tell from the tone of your question that there are a lot of big feelings around this for you. And it makes me wonder if you've given yourself permission to really process the grief. Because whenever we experience any kind of disappointment, we lose something, right? And when you have disappointed yourself, I think the grief, and when I have been in this situation, because you can bet it's happened to me more than once, when I have disappointed myself, I think that the grief is related to not really being the kind of person that I want to be. I think it can be grief related to being afraid that I won't ever be the kind of person that I want to be. Like it kind of cuts into our future. And as hard as it is, I mean, the work of grief is feeling the feelings and going all the way into the dark emotions, which can be really hard to do. I think it's easy to be afraid that, like, if you let yourself go all the way in there, you're going to stay there forever. But we have to make contact with them and feel them and process them, because if we don't, they obstruct the stages of growth and healing that happen next. And also, if we're not really splashing around effectively in our feelings, we don't have all the information. And so there is a lot here for you. I sincerely hope that you are connected with I mean, I was going to say a therapist, but honestly, like if I had a magic wand and could connect you with any kind of helper, I would want you to be working with a licensed therapist who specializes in career counseling and coaching. And I know that this is kind of a unicorn. I have a couple at my practice, but these are licensed mental health professionals. So they are therapists who can go with you into all the nooks and crannies, but they have specialized degrees, education, training in career and professional development. So I think that they have the unique ability to understand the mental, emotional trauma, anxiety, grief that we can all sustain in professional situations, because I think that that doesn't get enough recognition in our society, honestly, is like the level of career related trauma that people experience. It is a very real thing. So anyway, I hope that you have somebody like that in your life who can go with you into the deep unpacking. But also, I think in your case, just one other piece of advice, you want to be very careful to differentiate between guilt and shame. Guilt gets a bad rap, but it is a very powerful and positive dark emotion. Guilt is that part of you that says, you know what? I could have handled that better. And what did I learn in this situation? What did this teach me about myself, my growth opportunities, my values, and what is this feeling of guilt generating in me in terms of commitment to never do that again? And then how does that turn into an action plan of like, okay, so if I never want to do this again, what do I need to do? What change do I need to create on the inside to grow into the kind of person who could never do that again? Like guilt unleashes so many good things. And guilt is different from unproductive shame. Shame is not productive. It is like, I am the worst person in the history of the world. I am irredeemable. You know, like there is no hope for me. This is the worst thing ever. And it's like, you know, if we let shame take over, it's like just slaps you down. And like there's nothing productive that can come of that. So make sure that you are talking with your unicorn career counselor, licensed therapist about that. But then these next stages that come after then go into that, what did I learn process, and then the what action do I want to take now process, because that's where it gets good. So I hope that that perspective is helpful to you in your situation, and you know, assists you in your growth process. But what an awesome question. And thank you very much for sharing. Okay, we have some other fantastic questions, and I have a hard stop at the bottom of the hour. So let me see if I could get through a couple of these quickly because they're just all so good. Here we go. Okay, so let's see. Okay. How about this one? All right. I'm disappointed in myself because I don't watch my words and sometimes let things go. And my wife ultimately ends up getting really frustrated and stops talking to me and sees me as a different person. Yeah, that is all. I mean, okay, not awesome in the sense of like, I know that this is a really challenging experience to have and that there are a lot of big feelings around it, but can everybody in this live stream just acknowledge your insight and your self-awareness? Like when we are having problems in relationships, it is so easy to blame our partners, right? And you are doing the opposite of that. You are taking responsibility for, you know, the way I am showing up, the way that I am reacting in these moments is creating a lot of negativity and hostility in my relationship. And this is something that I need to work on. If all my clients were like you, my job would be so much easier, let me tell you. So anyway, I'm just incredibly impressed. But what you are telling me is that there might be some work to do here for you around emotional intelligence. And you might be like, wait, what? That's not what I'm asking about. But let me explain. So emotional intelligence is, I think, something that isn't really well understood. It is incredibly important. And there are also a lot of different pieces of emotional intelligence. But when you master emotional intelligence skills, it helps you regulate your own feelings, understand the feelings of other people, and then be able to communicate in such a way that mends and strengthens relationships instead of disrupting them. And so there are 4 components of emotional intelligence. The first is self-awareness. This, how am I feeling right now? Because if you're out of touch with that, you can start getting activated, and that will turn into, things coming out sideways or maybe differently than you intended. And so you first have to know how you feel and develop skills around managing your own emotions so that you can stay in a fairly regulated place no matter what is going on. You're still absolutely allowed to have feelings. Like, that is not the goal, to anesthetize yourself, but it is to be able to kind of ride the waves, manage the things. Also, when your feelings are well managed, you are able to have empathy for other people, meaning that you understand how they are feeling and you have insight into their minds. If you are having super big floody feelings, that creates self-absorption, right? Anytime anybody is in a ton of pain, they become very self-focused, and it is very hard for them to really have accurate empathy for what is going on in the hearts and minds of other people. So being able to understand yourself, regulate yourself, you can then have what we call mind sight. And then with mind sight and empathy, you understand what to say in that moment, or better yet, how to say it. You'll be able to say, here is what she needs to hear from me right now. Here is what would be a constructive way to handle this situation. It could even be, totally legitimately saying, this is a really important conversation. This is one we need to have. I can feel myself getting activated right now, and I'm afraid that I am not really in the right headspace to be able to have a constructive conversation. Could we come back to this maybe this afternoon when I have some time to collect my thoughts? Totally appropriate, right? So these are all kinds of ways that emotional intelligence skills could be expressed. And then, so that's the work to do on your side. But then I think also, and perhaps this would be a conversation to have with your partner, maybe even facilitated by a good couples counselor or relationship coach around what would she like to be hearing from you, because you have every right in the world to your needs, your rights, your perspectives, your feelings, and all couples have things that they have to work through. But in those moments, if you have a different perspective, or if you have something that you would like to express, how could you do that in a way that your partner is able to receive and understand? Because right now, that's slamming doors. So what you want to know is how in what way can I relate to you that keeps that door open? With the understanding, we all come from different cultures of origin, right? Like, you may come from a family that was much more direct or passionate, as my husband likes to say, right? Maybe your wife comes from a family where we don't talk about that. And so it's a little bit harder to have like more direct conversations. It could be so many different things. But again, that's where you need to go. But you can't go there unless you have a lot of emotional safety. Actually, you know what? As we're talking about this, I need to put a free resource in front of you because this would really help you. Okay, if you come to my website, come to growingself.com/communication. I put together a free, totally free 2-part training that goes into some of this. It doesn't go into emotional regulation, but it does go into like the systemic dynamics of communication and gives you a lot of skills and strategies to begin creating more emotional safety in your relationship. It could give you and your partner insight into each other if you do this together. And this is like a training. This is 2 45-minute sessions with me. I put together a workbook book, with exercises, because as you know, I mean, that's why I'm here on this live stream every week. Like I'm in this for real, and I care about you and your relationship and the kind of outcomes that you're able to create. And I know that nobody teaches us how to do this. I did not learn how to do any of this, and my husband and I spent many years knocking the corners off of each other before figuring it out. Because we have been together long before I was Dr. Lisa. So I have made all the mistakes, but thankfully we've also been able to do a lot of growth work, get professional help. And then of course, incorporating everything that I have learned professionally over the years. But communication is really key, because if you cannot talk about things in your relationships, it is really impossible to solve problems. And so I hope that this free, like no strings attached training begins helping you develop some of those foundational skills to be able to do that. And how wonderful that you are allowing your legitimate, healthy feelings of disappointment to help you understand what is important to you, your relationship. Understand too, what do I need to learn? I need to work on the way that I communicate. And then 3, what is the action that this is motivating me to take? And this is doing something around emotional intelligence skills, improving your communication skills. I sincerely hope that your wife does this training with you. I built it for couples to do together, and I hope that it benefits both of you. And I hope that also it's a start of helping her get insight into your process, so that she understands you a little bit better too. Okay. You guys, thank you so much for doing this with me. I wish I had more time today, but today's just one of those days. But thank you again. I always enjoy this time that we can spend together every week on Thursdays. And I will be back in touch very soon with another episode of Love, Happiness, and Success Live. All right, you guys, take care. Let's see. Uh-oh, maybe not. Oh, the joys. Okay, found the button. All right, bye, you guys.